Hello.
Um,
Connected. Okay, can you hear me okay now? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Good afternoon, and I'm going to start all over. Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining this webinar. This webinar is for the SBIR STTR program about the tips for how to apply and submit the proposal. My name is Rajesh Mehta. I'm a program director in this program and I manage environmental technology as such. So let's get started here. Uh, this is a program, as you know, is a grant program. And basically, that means it's not a contract. We don't expect you to give anything back to us, but we certainly have expectations that you will take your innovations to the marketplace and have a significant commercial and societal impact. And including phase one, phase two, and other supplements, we provide up to $1.75 million in the funding. So it's a pretty decent size of money for people who are just starting their journey to build a business. Okay, so the way the process works is you first have to submit a project pitch, which I'm assuming that all of you have done. And based on the information that the program receives, a program director sends you an invitation to submit the full proposal. In that invitation letter, uh, we also ask you to make sure that you do certain registrations. There are 4 registrations, and I will refer to it briefly. And then, while you are registering your company, and some of those processes may take a few weeks, uh, we encourage you to study the solicitation, because everything that you need to know is that information is provided in the solicitation. After studying the solicitation, you prepare your proposal, and then you have to submit your proposal anytime you are ready with it, but definitely before 5 p.m. Uh, I'm sorry, it looks like some people are having difficulty hearing me because my volume is coming in and going out. It's just the internet is unstable, so please bear with me. Uh, if things are not clear once finish my presentation, feel free to ask questions and I'll try to answer them if things are not clear. Okay, so after you study the solicitation, you have to prepare your proposal and then you submit your proposal. Okay. Now the program, and it looks like some people are able to hear me just fine. Some people are not able to hear anything at all. I hope you can follow the slides, those who are not able to hear me, and then ask questions. I will be available to answer all those questions. So the program basically provides funding in 2 tranches. Phase 1, which is presumably what you are applying for, is to demonstrating the technical feasibility of the idea. And you can do that over 6 to 12 months. And the phase 1 amount is 256,000. After demonstrating the technical feasibility, the company can apply for phase 2, which is about $1 million, and you can use that money over 2 years. Now, along with the base amount of $1 million, there are additional supplements that the company is eligible to apply for. And one major supplement is phase 2B, in which the program will match 50 cents on the dollar up to $500,000 of any independent qualified investment or revenues from sale of the product that is developed as part of the program. So you can just add up here on the screen, $1 million for phase 2, $500,000 for phase 2B, and $250,000 for phase 1. So that's where $1.75 million comes from. Okay, so all of you have already submitted the project pitch, and now you are invited to submit the full proposal. So now we are actually getting into what is it that you need to do so that this particular part of the process is painless for you. Okay. Uh, okay. I have been asked so that so many people are having difficulty. I'm being asked to change the way in which I am communicating. So please bear with me. I'm going to switch to different mode of communication. So, audio connection switch. Just a moment. Is this better?
Rajesh, we can hear you. Can you speak a bit louder?
Is this better?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm going to use this then. Okay. People, they are finding it a little worse. So we are having technical issues because of the internet. But I'm going to just go with this because I want to make sure that you have enough time to ask questions. So I'm just going to roll with where we are right now. Okay. Sorry about that. So as I mentioned, you have to have 4 registrations. One is DUNS, which is Dun and Bradstreet. It is a different agency, and you have to get that done. The other one is System for Award Management, we call SAM. This is one which is extremely important. That particular registration can take up to 3 weeks. So please do this as quickly as possible. Once you have your DUNS number and SAM registration active, you can apply for research.gov registration and SBIR registration. There was a question flashing on my screen. Is this for SBIR or general NSF? This is just for SBIR. Okay. Now, in terms of registration on research.gov, there are 2 platforms that we use. One is research.gov and one is Fastlane. And research.gov is for registering, whereas proposals you have to upload on Fastlane. So register on research.gov, but submit the proposal on Fastlane. And if you look at our website, seedfund.nsf.gov/apply, these things are made abundantly clear. Okay. Once you have registered, we ask you to look at closely the solicitation. And the solicitations for SBIR is NSF 20-527, and for STTR it is NSF 20-528. Both are essentially identical, with the difference that SBIR, you don't
require any partnership and has budgetary implications for that. And for STTR, you do need academic partnership. And again, it has budgetary implications. Okay, this is exactly what this slide says. And for SBIR, you can allocate up to 1/3 of the budget to any outside entity. For STTR, small business has to perform at least work equivalent to 40% of the budget, and at least 30% of the budget should be spent by the partner research institution. Now, if you look at the solicitation, there is a lot of information. The core, most useful information is in section 5, which gives instructions for proposal preparation, what to do in terms of budget, due dates, and fast lane requirements. So that's where I think you'll find a lot of your questions answered if you read that part of the solicitation. Okay, now let's come to preparing the proposal. So the proposal has a maximum of 15 pages, minimum 9 pages, but we really encourage you to provide all the necessary information that the reviewers can get from your proposal, because that's the only way you are communicating with the reviewers, and provide all the necessary information so they can reasonably assess your idea and your proposal. So it has a pre-formed structure. We want you to have, first thing in the proposal is elevator pitch, and it shouldn't be not more than 1 page. The next section is commercial opportunity. Then the next is innovation, and then description of company and the team, and then technical discussion and R&D plan. And as you can see here, we do recommend a certain amount of space devoted to that. 1 page for elevator pitch, 2 to 4 pages for commercial opportunity, 1 to 3 pages for describing the innovation, which is the thing that really is the basis for your proposal, and 1 to 3 pages about the company and the team, and minimum 5 pages on technical discussion and R&D plan, preferably up to 7 pages. Okay, then the next part, after you prepare the main body of the proposal, you look at the budgets, and you prepare the budget, and then you upload the proposal onto Fastlane. Please note that any trouble you might have in uploading the proposal, we have a fantastic help desk. The number is on the screen. Please take it down. And if you have any trouble, please contact Fastlane help desk. Please don't try to connect with the program director, because this aspect of the proposal, Fastlane is the best source for you to turn to. If you have questions about content of the proposal, etc., certainly reach out to the program director who has invited you to submit the full proposal. So in the Fastlane, on that page, there is this tab on Proposals, Awards, and Status. That's where you click, and you you submit the proposal step by step. Once you submit the proposal, and our submission window closes on December 3rd, your proposal will undergo a merit review process. Now, that may take up to 3 months for the merit review to take place. And then we actually do the diligence on the proposals which are under consideration, and that can take a couple more months. So the longest you'll have to wait is about 6 months from the date of submission to know whether your proposal is accepted for funding or declined. And if the proposal is accepted for funding, you can have access to a major part of this $256,000 by the time you get the notification. It's about 5 to 6 months. So that's the general process. Okay, so there are a few important links that I would like to point out to. And again, those links are provided on our website, seedfund.nsf.gov. If you click on the resource tab, there is a tab for applicants, and it explains project pitch, review guidelines, gives information about the webinars, and there is a fast lane guide, which is a step-by-step process that you can follow to upload the proposal on Fastlane. And if you have a lot of questions, you can look at our FAQs. There are a lot of questions are answered there, and that would be a very quick and efficient way for you to come up to speed. Okay. Now, since just last week, NSF has changed its requirement for some of the material that needs to be uploaded along with your proposal. 2 particular forms are biosketches and current and pending support. Now, those things are really designed for NSF at large, and if you don't submit those forms, you will not be able to upload your proposal. It will just stop you. So you must use those forms. But what we have tried to do is make it easier for you. If you don't like that particular format, and there's a good chance that you may not like that format because we are small businesses and not academic researchers, then what we recommend you to do is just put not applicable, and keep moving forward. And then in supplementary document, you can provide the resume and the current and pending support information. But you must upload all that as part of the supplementary document when you submit these forms. We do need this information, but if you want to submit it in the format in which standard format is, you should certainly do that. But if not, here is a way, work around it. And again, if you look at the link at the bottom of the screen, it does provide the same guidance. I hope this doesn't confuse you. So I'll repeat it again. Because of the new requirement, you must upload NSF-approved forms for the resumes and current and pending support. But if you find it cumbersome, you use those forms, and in each box, just put not applicable and upload the appropriate form of resume and current and pending support as supplementary documents, and then submit those forms. Okay, In terms of the proposal, how they are reviewed, you, of course, can read about it on our website. But basically, we are looking at three things. One is intellectual merit, broader impact, and commercial potential. Now, under the intellectual merit, what we are looking for is what is innovative. Innovation is the core of the intellectual merit segment. What is new, differentiable, which is actually solving a big ongoing problem. And the second part is what is the level of risk in trying to solve that problem. Technical risk, not market risk, not funding risk. What is a technical risk? And there is a way to think about technical risk. You want to find out what is the level of confidence you have that the R&D that you want to do is actually going to work out. If you have high level of confidence, then it's not very risky. And if you have a very low level of confidence, it is too risky. So you want to actually articulate very clearly what is the technical risk that you're trying to address through this NSF funding. Also, are giving you taxpayer dollars, and we would like to see the society as a whole is going to benefit from you working on this R&D, developing a product or a service, commercializing it, and actually helping solve some real problems that the society is facing. Of course, in order to have that broad impact, you must commercialize your technology. So we pay great deal of attention on the commercial aspect of your proposal. Although all the money that you are receiving is to actually do technical R&D, commercialization is the ultimate goal through which you will be able to show that you're going to put this money to use and benefit the society. So in the commercial potential section, we want to understand what you think is the potential market for your idea, what's the value proposition that you're going to offer to your customers, and whether your team is actually set up to take this on and take it all the way to the finish line, and what is the business model? How are you going to make money? And what kind of competitive advantage you have? And that competitive advantage directly links with the technical risk that you are trying to retire through this R&D. And we really want to understand that NSF funding is actually going to make a difference to you in terms of taking your idea forward. Quite a few people come to us where they have significant amount of funding already. They have to really explain clearly why this funding is necessary for them to move forward. Okay, there is a question here regarding whether you can buy equipment. For phase 1 funding, we do not allow purchase of equipment, although you can certainly rent or lease them. Okay, so let me just remind you that if you have not already started your registration, please do that as soon as possible, particularly registration for SAM, System for Award Management. It does take time. Please use FastLane guide, step-by-step guide to submit your proposal. I think that will ease the burden on you. If you have any issues, technical issues, please call FastLane Help Desk. And don't try to do this at the last day. it gets pretty crowded on the computer, and you don't want to be in the position where you are not able to submit your proposal by the 5 o'clock your local time. So please give yourself extra time. Although the window closes on December 3rd, please try to submit it earlier than that. Of course, in our case, window closes at 5 p.m. The next window will open at midnight, but it will be a different cohort, and you don't want to be part of the new cohort. If you have questions right now, please use WebEx Q&A channel. I will be able to answer. I will read them out so that everybody benefits from it. You can always send questions to sbir@nsf.gov. Take a look at our website very carefully as you prepare your proposal. And we really are excited to receive your proposal. It has been vetted by all the program directors. We think that you have something to offer. So please make a very compelling case for your proposal, and we look forward to receiving them. Okay, so I am getting a lot of questions here in the chat, but there should be a Q&A. Okay, maybe that's what it is. So I'm going to go to the questions that have been asked, and try to answer them. Okay. Okay. Some people have asked the question that why they are invited to this meeting because they have not submitted the pitch. I'm not quite sure, but if you have not submitted the pitch, please submit one, and I hope you get invited. Then you would have benefited from the information shared today. Okay, now a lot of people had difficulty even seeing my screen. People had difficulty hearing me. I apologize for all that. This is a new world that we are living in, where internet becomes pretty unstable sometimes, and there's not much we can do. Okay. We have recorded this, so the presentation slide as well as the audio part should be available. Okay. Now the question is from should we have from Muhammad Raskanari. The question is, should we have anything before submitting the proposal? Yeah, you should have received an invitation based on a project pitch that please submit the full proposal. I hope I am understanding your question correctly. The second question is, does font and size matter? Yes. We put a page limit of 15 pages, and we want it to be fair and consistent. So please use the font size that is recommended in the solicitation. Okay. So the other question was, what else may be included in the supplementary document? Well, supplementary document can have a lot of supporting information from the budget, and you probably are going to include supporting letters, and so forth. Again, you want to know the exact details, please read the solicitation, and it should be clear. There are limitations on how much you can pack it in, so please make sure that you abide by those limitations. Okay, then the other question was regarding the funds allocation, can they be used for equipment? I think I already answered that. What about the project summary? Project summary is one page that goes in the front, so that should not be anything more, anything less. Another question is, how do you ensure that the equipment is not bought? Well, we don't police. We ask you to certify it. And if somebody buys the equipment with the money in violation of the terms and the conditions, if they are caught, there are severe penalties. So we don't assure it, but there are random checks by our Inspector General, and if you are called upon, you have to provide the evidence that you are either rented it or how you spend the grant money. So you must spend the grant money the way you promised in the proposal. Okay, so then another question is, so phase 1 is about providing information on how we intend to move forward in the following 6 months with the technology. Well, phase 1 can be for 6 to 12 months. And you basically explain what technical risk you're trying to address with the money that you are requesting. And what will you produce at the end of that 6 to 12 months period, which demonstrate that your idea is technically feasible. And we also do a lot of things during phase 1, and we would also like to see that you have established some commercial viability, some proof that there is going to be a market for the product that you're trying to develop. So all that happens during phase 1. 6 months is actually a pretty short time. Typically, people need longer than that. The question is, can money be used for cloud services and computing power and so forth? If that is what is needed for conducting the research, you have to request it. And the program director is going to look at it and make the determination whether there's a legitimate request or not. But in order to do the R&D and to demonstrate the feasibility, if that's what you need, yes, you can request the money for computational thing. The other question is, can we update the company structure and DUNS number and so forth after or during the submission? Well, you will not be able to submit the proposal until you have your DUNS and SAM, DUNS number and SAM account that is active. So there is no question of updating it. Okay. So another question is, how necessary it is to get support letters? If necessity for the innovation has been established through research and adequately documented in various papers, is that acceptable? Well, the idea really is that you're trying to meet an unmet market need. Now, it would be great if you can validate that that market need is actually existing. Published papers and so forth are more about demonstrating the technical viability of the idea. At the end of the day, you want somebody to buy your product. And for that, you probably are much better off getting support letter to show that indeed there is an unmet market need. So I would say support letters are actually not required, but they are extremely important if you can get them. And support letters can validate the problem, it can validate your team, it can validate your approach. So there are a lot of things that can come through support letters, and that will strengthen your proposal. Okay, another question is, due to COVID, the research entity we wanted to partner with is not open. And so team cannot enter the premise. Can we budget for cloud work? Well, the idea really is to do the work and move the technology forward. And in these uncertain times, people are going to find creative ways of doing the work. So whatever mechanism you want to adopt to carry out the work and keep moving forward, you should propose it. Then the reviewers and eventually the program director is going to look at all that and either agree with you or disagree with you. But you do need to present a path forward and not just say that we are going to wait for the situation to turn until people can go back and work full time. So, yeah, you can budget for whatever is needed to carry out the R&D. Another question was, can a proposal be rejected on the ground that it was submitted as SBIR, but it was a better fit for STTR? No, we don't reject proposals on that basis. In fact, if it is a better fit for STTR, the program director would communicate with you, and we can change things so that we fund you as an appropriate project, either as an SBIR or STTR. Okay, so there is a question about, can I speak more about the budget expectations? I'm not quite sure how to answer that. You know that the total amount that is available is $256,000. And if you read the solicitation, we are encouraging people to make certain allocations. For example, a lot of people have difficulty having proper accounting system. So we are recommending that you allocate $10,000 for having a proper accounting system in place so that it is traceable, it is consistent with standard accounting principles and so forth. We also have a boot camp for customer discovery that takes place during phase 1, and that requires talking to potential customers and developing business model canvas, and we actually request that you allocate about $10,000. Now, $10,000 we were allocating for traveling, talking to the customers, but there may be other ways in which you could use that money. So please allocate some money for bootcamp also. You must allocate $2,000 per person, up to 2 people, for traveling to NSF for phase 1 grantee conference. I would still allocate that money right now, although we don't know when we will be holding in-person grantee conferences. So these are the few things that you should follow. As I mentioned, you cannot spend money to buy equipment, although you can use money to lease equipment. And whenever you are trying to, whatever request you are making, please make sure that you are documenting it and supporting it. For example, if you are requesting salary, please make sure that you are using the SOC code for the job that the person is going to be doing, and what is the corresponding Bureau of Labor Statistics rate in your locality, and the salary that you are requesting is not more than the median. So those are the things, again, are clearly outlined in the solicitation. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. It's about collaborators and other affiliations document required to filled out by the sub-body. That particular section is important for academic grants. It's not so important for the SBIR grant. Okay. I think collaborator and affiliation, as I said, is relatively less important. So PI can certainly fill that out. And if you have a sub-award to university, they may want to fill it out. Okay. So the next question is, when is first month out of the 6 months starting? First month starts from the day you receive the notification from NSF that you are getting the award. Typically, it will start either middle of the month or the beginning of the month, during which you are receiving the notification. Now, if for whatever reason, let's say you asked for 6 months, and for whatever reason, you were not able to spend all the money and do all the work, etc., there is a provision for a no-cost extension that you can request after consulting with your program director, and extend by whatever amount that you need to extend the project by. So I wouldn't sweat too much on that deadline, because we are again in uncertain times and you need some flexibility. So the other question is, are we creating a budget within the first award amount? Yes. This budget is only for phase 1, not for phase 2. And all the information that you will be creating for the proposal will be strictly limited to phase 1. There will be a paragraph in your proposal where you can explain how a positive results of phase 1 could lead to a potential phase 2. But no other phase 2 related information needs to be given. You have plenty of work to do to explain your phase 1 idea. Will my PowerPoint presentation be accessed? Yes, it should be available on a website. Now, we were informed that we had a year to submit phase 1. Then does December 3rd deadline apply to us? No. Once you get the invitation to apply for the full proposal, you have 12 months to submit your proposal, any time in that 12-month period. Okay, for phase 2B, that matching both third-party investment and revenue, could you speak more about the potential for revenue matching, please? So, sure. If your company is funded and based on the work that is done on the grant, you are able to make a product or improve your product, if that is what your grant is for, then you can start accumulating all the revenues that are directly attributable to NSF-funded activity. And we will treat those revenues for matching consideration. Okay, now somebody is submitting questions in Q&A panel, which I am not able to see here. Okay. I'm going to continue with chat and keep going through it until all the questions are answered. Unfortunately, for some reason, I'm not able to see the Q&A panel. Sorry about that. So another question is, to what degree of depth are you looking for on the R&D technical, math and chemical formulas, or is it all words? Well, the answer to that is you're trying to communicate your idea to the reviewers, which are technically quite astute. So if you feel that putting equations or chemical formula would be insightful in terms of appreciating the quality of your innovation, you should include them. If you think that that is fairly well known and that's not where the innovation is, but you really need to describe the idea more compellingly, then you would use words or combination of this. It is basically your ability to communicate the power of your innovation, why it is such an insightful idea, why this is going to really unlock some commercial potential, how it is going to benefit the society if your innovation really becomes a reality. So most of it is words, but sometimes picture is words. So in a figure, put a graph, whatever is necessary to communicate the power of your idea. Okay, another question is, how strict is 15-page limit? Very strict. Please don't try to go beyond that. I don't even know whether you will be even allowed to submit the proposal, because there are a lot of automatic checks now in our system. So please limit yourself to 15 pages. Question is, can we get a copy of our original project pitch? Please write to the program director who invited you and make a request. It's unfortunate that something as important as project pitch, you have not been able to save it. We are working with hundreds of people, and we try to do our best to meet everybody's needs. So certainly you can send a request to your program director, and hopefully he or she will be able to send you a copy of it. Another question was about indirect cost. How does a company negotiate? NSF actually doesn't negotiate with the companies. There is a guidance given for what is allowable indirect cost. You can just follow that. The de minimis cost is also said if you don't want to describe exactly what those costs are. You can take the de minimis indirect cost, I think is under 10%. And otherwise, anything that you need to spend to keep the business going, instead of turning the lights on, that you should include in the indirect cost. That would mean utilities, rent, internet, some secretarial help, some standard accounting help, etc. All those would be allowable indirect cost. So again, the question was, the questioner thought that they had 1 year since the acceptance of the pitch. Yes, you do have 1 year. But we have invited you to this webinar so that you know that there is a window closing. But if you are not ready to submit the proposal, you don't have to submit the proposal. You can submit it in the next window or a window after that. another question is that if we plan on increasing our personnel pending grant approval, how should we address that in our proposal? Should we start this employee search before or after submitting? Well, I can't tell you when you should start it, but you should certainly make provision for hiring a person on the grant, and you'll have to explain what skill set this person is going to have and what tasks this person is going to be responsible for. If you feel pretty good about your chances, then you do start looking for the person before the grant is announced. If you wait till the grant is, you are notified that you have money and you start interviewing, you are going to spend precious time where a lot of things are happening where you don't have your team together. So you'll have to figure it out for yourself. When is the right time to do this? You can keep everything ready, and if the grant, if you get the funding, you can trigger it so the person can join you. But you'll have to figure it out yourself. Okay, another question is, if the project has immediate application to COVID-19 virus, is there an expedited review process available? The answer is no, but your proposal is viewed very favorably by the panel. We will try to move internally the project forward faster. But I can't make any promises that that will necessarily happen, depending on how many proposals we receive and how we can handle it. In the past, we have tried to provide a fast track for COVID-19, and it didn't work out too well. So make the case that this is urgent and important, and NSF will try to do best in terms of speeding up the processing of your proposal. But there is no special path for that. The next question is, do you have examples of what the initial funds have been used for? Without equipment tools being purchased, then rentals and payroll is all that is left. There is enough provision in the budget for materials, and if you are trying to build things, not purchase things, there is a lot of room for buying chemicals, buying pieces that you could use to make the equipment. So I'm not quite sure that these are the only possibilities. Of course, you are going to pay salaries, and you are going to do a lot of other things. Yeah, so WebEx Q&A is not working. Right. Okay, another question is, we were invited to submit the full proposal. Can we collaborate with another small business unit? And if yes, is there any restriction on sharing the funds? Well, we like collaboration if it makes sense and it allows you to actually do a better job than just doing everything by yourself. But the funding is provided only to the applicant company. And if you're going to collaborate with another company, that is basically outsourcing. And if it's an SBIR application, you can only give maximum of 1/3 of the budget to the collaborating company. If it's an STTR, then your collaborator is going to be an academic partner, and you can share up to 60% of the budget to the academic institution. So, yes, collaboration is welcome, but there are the budgetary implications for that. Okay, next question is there a corporate overhead indirect cost rate to be included in funding application? There is a line for indirect cost. but I don't understand what is corporate overhead rate. There are allowable rates, as I explained in the response to earlier question, and that's what you should put down as the indirect cost. Another questioner has that confusion that not sure I understood your point correctly regarding the December 5th deadline. Okay, so basically the way practically the process works is we have no deadline right now. You can submit your proposal anytime. But once the proposal comes in, there is no internal mechanism to immediately start the review process. So we have to accumulate certain number of proposals that can form a reasonable panel. Then we have to invite reviews, and all those things take time. So what happens is when we have these windows, then we close when we close the window, then we will, at that point, we will collect all the proposals that we have received and panel them. So if you want to see when your proposal is going to be evaluated, a reasonable way to think about it is that we will accumulate all the proposals that have been received by December 3rd, and we will panel them. Then proposals received after December 3rd may or may not get paneled with the same batch, depending on how the process goes. They may have to wait for 3 more months. So that's what I meant. I hope it is clearer. Okay. Next one. Somebody wants to know whether there is a place they can send proposal for prior to submission. No. We don't have a place. You can certainly send it to somebody who wants to help you, and they can review it for you, but NSF wouldn't do that. Okay, the next question is, for full proposals, that are not awarded, is there a possibility for debriefing? Yes, that's a good question. So during the review process, the proposal is reviewed by at least 3 reviewers, sometimes more. And most of the time, we have a review panel where the panel will discuss and then prepare a panel summary. So you get at least 3 independent reviews. May also get an additional panel discussion summary. And you take a look at it. And if you still have questions about what was meant by the weaknesses pointed out in the panel summary, you're welcome to reach out to the program director and request a debrief call. And certainly happy to fill in any other gaps that might exist. So yes, debriefing is certainly allowed. The next question is, who can be PI on Phase 1 SBIR grant? Does it have to be CEO or can be person leading the R&D? Can subcontract research organization be PI or co-PI? Well, NSF puts a lot of weight on who the PI is. The PI is the one that the program director is going to work with. So the PI has to be capable of conducting the entire project. The CEO, if the CEO has the technical capability and willingness to spend the time doing the technical R&D, CEO can be PI too. But in general, if CEO is fundraising and doing business development, that's not an ideal choice for being a PI. But PI also has a requirement that has to be at least 51% employed by the company, has to be either a US citizen or a green card holder. So you'll have to look at your situation and decide who the PI can be. And no, PI cannot be from the sub-awardee institution for the reasons I just mentioned. They have to be more than 51% employed by the company. Now, we don't really have much meaning for a co-PI for SBIR proposals. We really primarily deal with the PI. Okay, so the next question is, what percentage of the funding can be used for CROs? How to properly describe CROs in the proposal? A CRO is a service provider, so you will have a place in the budget where you say we need to get this data, and we are going to give this much money to that particular organization. So there is nothing deep about CROs, and they are limited by the amount that I described. For SBIR, you cannot give more than a third of the budget to CROs. And even in STTR, if you are going to have academic partners, you'll have to see how much money is left to give it to somebody else. Next question is, our acceptance email said that we were good through 21 to submit.
Okay, I'm back. Can everybody hear me? Uh, okay, good. Okay, I am trying to work with a very unstable situation, so please bear with me. Uh, okay, I'm going to pick up from where I left. Okay. The question is there any guide to explain the SAM registration process? Somebody is having a real difficult time. I'm very sorry, but we don't have a guide, but you can go to SAM help desk and get their help to move through it. It's a slow and painful process, and you just have to be patient with it. Okay. The next question is, would an advisory board count under consultant services? Typically, the consultant services are technical consultant. And if they are going to give you advice for technical R&D and you're going to pay them, that's where it will go. If it is just a general business advice or anything like that, then no, cannot really treat them as consultants. Okay, somebody wants to know the statistics on acceptance rates and number of applicants in the past year. In general, we get uh, close to 1,000 applications every 3 months. But that these numbers are not reliable because they are also mixed with COVID influx. But our acceptance rates have been between 10 and 15%. Okay, so somebody has reposted the question from Q&A. What if my company got acquired by after submitting the pitch and before submitting the full proposal? What if the acquisition happens after submitting the full proposal? In either case, can we move the proposed project to a different entity with same key personnel? So the pitch is just an invitation. And if you get acquired after submitting the pitch, uh, and then you become a new entity, then you have to submit the pitch again as the new entity and go through it. If you have submitted the proposal and then you get acquired, then NSF will allow you to complete the project, uh, but needs documentation that the new company is going to provide you with all the resources and the time and all that complete project. You should discuss it with your program director at that point, how to proceed. So the next question is, can people hired as consultants who will provide letters of collaboration also provide letters of support? Letters of collaboration are exactly just that, letters of collaboration. They cannot be support letters. Support letters are really your potential customers who are going to validate that the product that you are trying to develop is of value to them and how it is going to make their lives a lot easier. You are allowed to submit up to 3 letters of support. The next question is, does the review of proposal start after the submission deadline or does it start on submission? I think it varies depending on how many proposals to related topic cluster that the program director can form a panel. That's when the review starts. So that's why I gave you a rough range, anywhere from 1 to 3 months it will take for a review to take place. The question is, does it matter if we submit the proposal early or just before the deadline? If you submit early and there are other people also submitting early and a panel can be formed early, then your proposal will get reviewed earlier. Uh, Although the experience says that vast majority of the people submit proposal near the window closing. So that's where you can be sure that it will be reviewed soon after the closing date of the window. In the proposal guideline, the next question says the equipment is defined as property with value greater than 5,000. Does that mean that phase one funding can be used to purchase equipment items costing less than 5,000? The answer is yes, but please don't try to game the budget, game the system. The idea really is that, if you need some small items, we want to give you the flexibility to buy those items. The idea is that if you need any major piece of equipment, we won't allow you to spend money. The next question is, can a patent pending status serve as a support letter? No, yeah, that doesn't validate anything. So that's not a good support letter. Next question is, what is the purpose of submission windows? Does anything get reviewed prior to the end of the submission? Yes, submission windows are our ways of making sure that people work towards submitting by a certain end date. But we want to encourage people to submit proposal anytime they are ready. And if enough proposals get clustered around a topic, then a panel can be formed earlier and the review can be done earlier. We do that. It's just that people have to get in the habit of submitting proposal whenever they are ready. If not, most people apparently prefer deadline. So we provide this window so that they are more frequent than in the past and people can submit proposals sooner and we can review them sooner. The next question is, can a patent pending, okay, I already did that. The next question is it recommended for applicants to follow up with a program director during 1 to 3 month merit review process? The recommendation is to have radio silence. Please do not reach out to your program director during the because we want to be fair to everybody. We don't want to hear any more new information from you. We will contact you when additional information is needed. So that's a great question, and the answer is actually the opposite. Please refrain from contacting your program director to find out what's going on or whether you have some new information. We will not be able to use that information anyway. We'll only work with the information that was submitted along with. So next question is, what is the average team size for successfully funded proposal? Well, I would say that typically the first time applicants that are funded have roughly 3 team members. It's pretty small. Next question, is there a phase 3 or a program to sell the product resulting from this particular R&D to NSF? No, we only have phase 1 and phase 2. We hope that by end of phase 2, we are ready to go to the market and keep moving forward towards commercialization. Either you already have a product that you are ready to sell, or you have investment so you can continue developing your technology and eventually commercialize it. But no, we don't have these three. Uh, the next question is, can we cite conversation we have had with industry experts and potential customers, especially for commercial opportunities action? Well, you can cite conversations, but unless it is verifiable, it is validated, not quite sure how much credibility those conversations have. So it would be nice to actually have that kind of support in form of the support letters. The next question, does the 2-month limitation on effort for senior personnel apply to SBIR program? Yes, for every 6 month of project, the PI has to spend 2 months. Senior personnel, we don't have such. It's only for the PI. So if it's a 1-year project, the PI has to spend at least 2 months on it. Although uh, it would raise a flag because we really want people to be really committed to making sure project is going to be successful. Okay, the next one. Can you further elaborate what is considered in and out of 1/3 budget in terms of capabilities? For instance, if I hire a consultant under W2, does it means he is internal resource? But if I hire him as a 1099 employee, he's an external resource. That is correct. If you if somebody is on your payroll, it's an internal resource, and somebody who's not on your payroll, it is outsourced. Next question. While going through SAM registration, they had a bunch of questions for me. I went through, check if the email is not blocked guide as they requested. But the person at SAM kept responding to me saying that they did not receive my feedback. Is there a help desk for SAM? I believe so. Please contact that help desk. Okay, the next question is the 7% small business fee taken from the total 256K, or does this 7% fee get calculated from the smaller portion of the 256K? If you go through the budget, it will be 7% of the total direct and indirect cost. When you add that percent, it should total up to 256. So fee is included in 256K. Okay. The next question is, what is the general acceptance rate for phase 1 applicants? I think I already said that, 10 to 15%. The question was how long the review process takes place. As I said, it takes 1 to 3 months for the review, and then a couple of months for the diligence and all the internal processing. So you should expect to hear from us if you are successful within 4 to 6 months about what the final decision is. So they have, some people are finding that they have not heard from us from recent months. And that may be possible because we had a very large number of proposals of COVID, and some of us may be delayed. But we are working diligently. We're trying to catch up with that. Normally, we are pretty good in having a very clear picture, at least by 6 months. And the next question is there a list of budget restriction or things that can't be purchased with the grant money? Just look at the solicitation, and that should be clear from that, and also look at our FAQs. The next question is, does equipment with a line item price under 5K still qualify as a varied expense. Uh, in the context of what R&D is being done, it could be. Yes. Uh, Next question. Can a single person serve as a PI on several different funded SBIR Phase 1 grants for a single company over several submission cycles? Uh, we allow a company to apply for only one grant application, and a PI can only serve on that grant application, cannot serve on multiple grant applications. Now, if the PI already is working on a funded SBIR and wants to apply here, welcome to do so, but then have to explain how that person is going to manage these multiple grants. But within a particular proposal cycle, only one proposal is allowed, and only PI can serve only as PI on one application. Next question. If we already did NSF I Corps, do we need to do the bootcamp? My answer is yes, but you can discuss it with your program director and feel that you have a strong case why you don't want to do it, and your program director agrees with it, may be able to opt out. But our experience is that people who have done I-Core, they still benefit enormously through this bootcamp. So I would just say you should seriously consider doing bootcamp as part of your plan. Next one, is it possible to skip phase one and apply for phase two money? The answer is no. The only way NSF SBI program works is you have to first get phase one, then and only then you phase two. Question, can we suggest reviewers? Yes, you may suggest reviewers, but NSF is under no obligation to invite them. We will decide who we want to invite as reviewers. But if you are working on things which you think are really very few people actually understand, or it's a small group, and it would be beneficial for NSF to know who those reviewers are, we welcome that kind of suggestion. Next question. Is it okay? I will do that. So somebody wants to go to just to do the scale up, and the answer is then you should submit a phase one and trying to address the scale up issue and see whether it is sufficiently high risk. There is no direct way to apply for phase two. Question is how should one use the 7% fee? The best way to use 7% fee is think of that as your flexible spending account. Trying to perform R&D, and you've done the best job you can in terms of anticipating all the expenses. But as you start working on it, you find that needed to buy something more or some cost increase, etc., etc. The 7% fee is something that you can use any which way you want. You might be able to give it as a bonus to your employee. You might be able to do it to buy a higher price equipment than what we thought initially. So it's totally up to you. It just gives you flexibility to spend. Okay, next question is I applied for phase one SBIR, and it ended up being referred to NSF IIP and was rejected with an invitation to reapply. How does reapplication process work? Okay, reapplication is essentially the same way as it's a new application. You have to submit a project pitch, but in the project pitch, you should highlight the weaknesses that were identified by the reviewers and how you have addressed them. So the program director knows that you are making a substantial revision to your original proposal that was declined. and the new proposal is going to be stronger. Based on what you are trying to do, then you'll be invited to submit the application and you submit. So it is a pitch, but pitch that addresses the weaknesses. And by the way, even in the proposal, you should append one page in which you clearly outline what were those weaknesses that were identified and how and where in the current proposal addressed it. It's a pretty important piece of information. The next question is, does budget go to the company in case of STTR and sub-award to academic institution or vice versa? All the money always goes to the applicant company. Applicant company will manage sub-awards. So nothing goes to the academic institution. Everything goes to the applicant. Okay, the next question is the format for BioSketch is same as NIH BioSketch format? I don't know. This is a new format. Take a look at it. Find it works for you. Use it. If it doesn't work for you, put not applicable, not applicable, and then put the format of resume and current and pending support information the way you would like to supplement it. Next question is there only one panel that convenes after December? I am not quite sure I understand that question, but we have lots of panels for each cohort. So once December deadline passes, the window closes. Depending on the number of proposals, we will have various program directors conducting various panels. Next question. Phase one, is the idea to develop a prototype to reduce technical risk? Or is the idea to determine technical feasibility? Well, I'm not quite sure that these things are separate. You are trying to, the goal here is to commercialize the technology. And in order to show that this is going to be a commercially viable product, you are going to demonstrate the technical feasibility in the project, in the product development. And nobody gives money to do this kind of technical risk reduction. So what we are encouraging is that take your highest technical risk that you have to overcome to really commercialize your technology, demonstrating that. So focus on those aspects. Make sure that you are able to address them during phase one. So that when it comes to phase two, it is more about how are we going to scale it up, how are we going to make it robust, how are we going to fit it into the way the market needs it. All the major technical questions you want to have answered by the end of phase one. I hope this is helpful. Okay, the next question is what is it going to be different next year? Why you said you want to apply before December 3rd this year? Can you please expand on that? Well, no, we are working on these windows. So if you want to apply by December 3rd window, now is the time to work on it. If you don't want to apply now, there will be next window and then be window after that. So you can apply anytime you are ready to apply. There is nothing specifically different. Uh, we are currently working on solicitation for the next year, and we will be making it known to everybody how the program is going to move forward. But the idea is still we want people to submit proposals when they're ready. The next question is a technical challenge getting on. Did you share information regarding accessing previously funded projects? Previously funded projects can be seen by just going to NSF Awards database, and you can just use the keyword SBIR and other keywords that are of relevance to you, and it will give you all the funded projects that we have funded from the beginning of this program. You can limit it to a certain time frame. So all that information is public. Uh, all the abstracts are there. And you can also go to research.gov, and many of the recent projects, there is a new reporting form or project outcomes report. You can actually learn what was in the abstract before the project started and what was accomplished because of the grant. So you'll have both the pieces of information, at least for some of the projects. So the next question is, we have an invitation to submit now. Can we submit another pitch for a separate project, or is there a limit on proposals? If you have been invited, then you are already in our system. Until a decision is made on your request, you should not submit another. So if you are invited to submit a proposal, please submit the proposal. Wait for the decision on that. Once the decision is made, you are home free. You can consider another project and another project. But we really want you to focus on one thing. We only allow one proposal at a time in the system. Okay, the next question is with regard to deadlines. You stated that you don't want to move to another cohort. Will you please speak to this? Uh, Again, I think I answered that earlier, but let me repeat it. The current window closes on December 3rd, and we know that a lot of people submit around the time the window closes. That means we have a large pool of proposals which can cluster easily, and we can form panels and we can begin the review process. So if you submit your proposal before December 3rd, that's what is going to happen. It will trigger and your proposal will be included in one of those clusters. If you submit your proposal after December 3, we will try to include it in the panels if we can. But if not, we will keep your proposal on the side until we accumulate enough proposals to form a and begin the process. So, in a way, submitting around December 3 is a good idea. Submitting after December 3, uh, you may have to wait as much as 3 months where we have accumulated enough proposal to. If more proposals related to your topic comes in, then there is a good chance that it will get evaluated sooner. There are no guarantees. Next question. Can you reiterate what you said about justifying market salaries for the personnel? Yes. Uh, each person on the team is doing some technical work because we are only funding tech. So there is an SOC code associated with that expertise. So you have to find the SOC code for that person. Next, you go to Bureau of Labor Statistics database, find out what are the prevailing salaries for that particular SOC code in your area. And since we are mostly funding startups, even though there is a range, we strongly recommend that you do not request salaries greater than the median salary for that particular SOC code. Okay, I hope that's clear enough. Okay, next question. We established a new business for this. Are there any challenges getting funded for a new business? Uh, no, not really. fact, almost 3/4 of the companies that we fund are businesses that have never received any money from the federal government. They're, they are formed in last 3 years. So relatively very young companies. That's what we want. Okay, the next one. None of my questions are being answered. I'm sure you are not seeing them. Well, I am seeing a lot of questions, so I'm not quite sure why your question is not in front of me. It's in the chat. Everybody sees there. The next question is the December 3rd deadline only for the pitch? The December 3rd window closing is not related to pitch. You can submit pitch anytime. The December 3rd window closing is for submission of the full proposal. Okay, so the next question is, when are you going to switch from submission system to new research.gov? Whenever that happens, it will be clear to you when you try to upload the proposal. I don't know exactly when that is going. Next question, uh, can you provide detail of who can be the PI? Does it have to be from the company or someone from sub-awarded research organization? I think I answered that question. The PI has to be from the company and not from any other organization, because PI has to be majority employed by the applicant. Okay, I am going. The next question is, rent is allowable from the initial fund? Rent for the business where the work is going to be done, that would be part of the indirect cost. Yes. Next question. So the budget is from 6 to 2 months after the acceptance of the pitch. Now the budget is for the time you are notified that you are receiving the grant, then the budget will be for 6 to 12 months after that, whatever the time period you have chosen. There's nothing to do with the pitch. The next question is, how many grants will be awarded in this round? Are the number of grants affected by COVID on the NSF budget in this window? I don't know how many grants. It will depend on how many proposals we have received and how many of them are meritorious in terms of so forth. In general, our award rate is going closer to 10% because of a very large number of proposals that we received. Okay, the next question is, can you delay accepting the funds? Wait to see if you got awarded a grant from a different institution, and if so, how long can you defer accepting the award? I think if it comes to that point, you should really talk to the program director who is managing your proposal and then decide. It may or may not be acceptable. It really depends on the program director, how things are moving, our program. Okay, next question. Facilities and team. How important to evaluation is it that there be been both the facilities and team be in place before submission or by the time of the receipt of the award? Uh, you can submit a proposal uh, without actually having a team that is on the payroll, uh, but you need to have a very clear description of who the team is going to be, what capabilities are being brought to bear to carry out the work, and where that work is going to be done. So all that information has to be there, although they are not in place. And certainly, if were to receive the grant, the facilities, etc., you need to provide the lease documents before even the grant is made. So those things will happen, will need to happen if you are being considered for. But again, you can talk to the program director, because if you are being considered for an award, you will be contacted by the program director, get a lot more details, and you can talk about it. Okay, next question. How much of the budget can be used for consulting fees versus employee? I think I have said that. Again, repeating it. Now, if it's an SBIR, you can only use 1/3 of the total budget for outsourcing. That includes consulting. Next one. Based on what you said, we do not have to have all of our potential consultants figured out for the proposal. But can we budget for the expected funds we need? Then once awarded, hire the consultant. Is that correct? Uh, you need to have a very clear idea of what kind of skill sets you will need. And if you are going to pay the consultants, then you do need to include the commitment letters from the consultant, which will be provisional anyway. They would say, if it is funded, I'm willing to work on this and I'm going to charge money and I'm going to deliver this. So it's relatively straightforward, and you should include the. Don't hire them, but there has to be clarity that they are willing to work on this. If okay, so there is a question. If we have a question regarding if our research falls under human subject, is that something our program director could answer for us? Program director is going to ask you to go through IRB, and it is only the IRB that will decide whether either you have an exception or whether you need to file a protocol and have to, program directors don't decide. We need independent verification. So you can speak to the program director more. You are working. Can you conduct animal testing? Yes, that is also permissible, but then you need to this IACUC certification, so that you are going to get that work done with proper protocols and so forth. So again, a lot of certification if any human or animal experimentation, and all of that has to be produced before the grant is made. So the next question is, do simple tools you need to build the products from multiple component parts count as materials? The answer is quite likely, but again, check with your program. So the next question is, can you please explain more about the budget? We are working with a research institution. If they are a sub-awardee, how much of the total budget can be allocated? So if you are applying as an SBIR company, the maximum you can allocate to that research institution is only 1/3 of the. If you are applying as an STTR company, then you can allocate up to 60%. Okay, then the next question is, we are contracting with outside vendors. Is that considered as a cost of doing business? The answer is no. It is outsourcing, and that is counted under that 1/3 or 60% limitation for outsourcing. I think I answered the question about whether you can go to phase 2 directly. The answer is no. The next question is, can we retroactively pay for expenses as to free up resources before actually receiving funds? Can we have some sort of resource such as PDF to see submission window for registration is complete? Are appendices accepted for integral sections such as commercial opportunity? Lot of questions in one question. Let me take one at a time. If you are being considered for an award, NSF allows you to spend the approved budget 90 days in advance of the actual award. What it means is you can start spending the money even before the award is made, but you can spend only that money at your own risk. Because until you receive the award letter, NSF makes no commitment. You can spend the money at your own risk, but if the award is made, you already spent the money that you would have spent anyway because it is approved budget, and you can reimburse yourself for those approved expenses, even if they occurred before the actual award began. I hope that is clear. Uh, I don't understand the second question. All the resources that you need uh, is available. They are all available on our website. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by some sort of resource such as a PDF that you need. And no, we don't accept appendices. The whole idea of limiting your proposal to 15 pages is we want you to be very succinct and tell us exactly what is important. By adding appendices and all that, you just make more work and makes the proposal process more uneven. So no, you have to say whatever you need to say within those 15. Okay, next question. What is the success rate to go to phase 2 after phase 1? It's typically between 50 and 70%, going from phase 1 to phase 2. Next question is, assume the full proposal is rejected. Can we do resubmission? I think I answered that question. Yes. Is there a freeze time? The answer is no. Do we need to submit the project pitch again? The answer is yes. Okay. Next question is, when describing, for example, the validation of a mechanism for a device, how detailed should the description be? Again, you are talking to reasonable people and who are technically astute. So you have to give sufficiently important substantive information. You don't have to go into details, but enough information so a person who is technically skilled can make a reasonable judgment about what are you trying to do, whether that is something innovative, whether it is risky, and whether it is pretty solid or there are some flaws. So you can get good feedback from. Next question is, how detailed should the timeline be? Days, months? I think whatever is appropriate. If you are trying to design it for a 12-month, I think monthly deadline, monthly timeline would be good. Uh, but it's really up to you how you see these things going. And how accurate should the estimate of revenue potential be? To be very honest, at a very early stage, these are the best guesses. So you make the best possible estimate and see whether there is a way in which you can show as the project progresses that how good your estimate is, just to meet reality. Next question is, are there examples of proposals we can use to help make ours? Everything that you give to us is considered proprietary, so we don't share any proposal with anybody. What you may be able to do is find out from your network who is working or has worked on this kind of projects, and whether they are willing to help you or they are willing to share their products with you. But NSF will not be able to share it. Next question is, can the PI be a person who has the green card approved as work permit but has not received the final card yet? Well, the person who's going to be the PI has to be legally allowed to work in the US. So if the green card is approved and the letter says that you are now eligible to work in the US, is an official documentation from Immigration Services, then it's fine. But if it doesn't say that, then you'll have to wait for the final card. So any documentary evidence you can provide is what will guide the decision. Okay. I think I answered most of the questions right now. The next question is, can PI spend more than 2 months on the project? Of course. Yes, 2 months is the minimum requirement if the project is 1 year long. Can you clarify the phase 2B match? For example, the company obtains external funding and then NSF may match it 2x? No. If the company obtains external funding and there are a lot of qualification, dependent investors who have never invested in your company before, and their investment is directly connected to NSF funded work, then we would consider that for a possible match, and NSF will match 50 cents on the dollar. Let's say your company gets an external investment of $1 million. NSF will potentially match up to half a million. If you get 2 million, we will only be able to match only up to half. But this all has to be qualified, and there is a detailed process that we go through to evaluate the eligibility and availability of the funds. The next question was, when you say you want high risk, are you saying you want mitigated high risk? No, what I'm saying is that if there are these technical challenges which will be considered by reviewers, that this is a very interesting problem that addresses a major societal issue, and there is great deal of uncertainty whether the proposed R&D is going to come up with a successful outcome. That is high risk, and what we are trying to say is that in your project you have a lot of uncertainties to deal with. Please make sure that you are addressing the highest uncertainty as part of your phase 1, because at the end of phase 1 you are demonstrating the technical feasibility and you are really trying to go next step, prototype to scale up and so forth. So you don't want to have any huge unanswered technical questions hanging on your head. So address those technical risks. The next question is, does participant support for the PI count as part of the 1/3 of the budget for hiring employees? I'm not quite sure I understand that question about participant support. There is no participant support allowed under SBIR anyway. It is either employees, senior personnel, and other people. There are no other participants. Okay. Uh, are we allowed to get other types of funding besides NF, such as Bill Gates Foundation? Oh, you are welcome to apply to anybody, support your ideas. And next question is, do we have to release all our copyrights and patents and patent endings? No, you don't release, but you have to disclose and register on our iEdison website that all the or patent applications that you filed, which are connected to NSF funded activities. But you retain rights to all these things. And government has certain rights under extraordinary circumstances to use those things. Mostly all the IP rights belong. Next question, can we suggest people we do not want as reviewers? Yes, you can certainly suggest that, hopefully with some explanation why. So the next question is, can a person serve PI on SBI grants that are funded sequentially? Yes, the answer is yes. But I would just say that at least for our program, we are very mindful that we are funding teams that are really focused on funding that we have made available and make it a success. The next question is, should funded phase 1 research result in a functional MVP, or can be outcome be a series of demonstrations of various technical components of MVP? Well, if you are just demonstrating the feasibility of various components, the big question is, when you put those components together, does the whole product work or not? If that question is not answered by the end of phase 1, there is a risk that the phase 2 application, the reviewers may not be willing to take that much technical risk at that point. So it's a good idea to demonstrate the technical feasibility or viable product as a total package. Next question, can PIs budget salary for themselves beyond 12-month phase 1 timeline in order to bridge the funding gap to phase 2 award? The answer is no. We only are funding you to do the work, and if the work requires 12 months, then that's what we do for. How you stretch and how you come up with the bridge funding, that is something that you start thinking about. You're applying for it now. Is an issue, and you should address it differently. And the next question is, if our budget is larger than the phase 1 grant, can and we intend to cover the extra cost internally and state so in the application, will this affect our application in a positive or negative way? Well, NSF does not allow cost sharing. NSF is interested only in funding things that is dependent on NSF funding, and you have to produce R&D output that matches with that expectation. So or whatever you need to do, you have to separate your activities in such a way that your internal fund, NSF funding is not dependent on your internal. You have to have an R&D that stands on R&D plan that stands on its own, and it will be fully funded by NSF. Can any funds be used for legal support? Well, for customary business related things, some legal expenses are there. Uh, let's say you have a lease document and you want to run it by your attorney. Yeah, those things would be part of your indirect cost. Or anything specific like patents or freedom to operate evaluations, all that, you cannot use this money for that. Next question, who are the panel reviewers? Well, panel reviewers are faculty members who are working in those research fields. They are industrial practitioners. They are commercial reviewers who are able to judge the market potential and so forth. They are NSF funded companies, the PIs who have experience in what really is needed in an NSF phase one proposal and so forth. So it's a mix of a variety of people, and they all are bound by non-confidentiality, and we take great care so that there is no conflict of interest. If somebody is doing business with a competitor, we will not allow that person to. Okay. Next question. Many small startup may have the CEO and PI as the same person. It seems like you are discouraging that, however. Perhaps the CEO should make clear that they will not fundraise during that time. They are also the PI. I'm sorry if I gave you that impression. In a startup, a person wears many hats. So CEO can be the PI, but PI is not 100% paid by the grant. So let's say PI is paid 40% of time for the grant, the remaining 60%, PI is going to be paid by the company to do company's work, to company's resources, and that could be fundraising. So no, I'm not discouraging CEO from being the PI. I was just saying that if the expertise of that person is commercialization related, then phase one, which is really focusing on technical R&D, we, we really would like the PI to be technically competent to conduct the project. I hope there is no more confusion on this. Next one, if I take a leave of absence from my university to work on this proposal, can I charge my full salary for that time to the proposal? The answer is absolutely no. Next question, can we make minor changes to the budget after we are awarded? That's possible in consultation with your program. Could rent be included in direct cost if the work being done for the business is at the residence? The answer is no. That would be quite a mistake. And we actually want to make sure that everybody understands that. It's your business and it's your residence, and we don't want pay for the mortgage through this grant. So that's a part of the investment that you make in your business. Next question is, what if my team is globally distributed? How do we calculate the salaries to include in the budget? Well, rule number one, not a penny of this grant money can be spent for work that is being done outside of United States. So people have to be present in United States. No money, because this is US taxpayer dollars, has to be spent within United States. I answered the question on legal expenses. Uh, Somebody is frustrated that questions not getting answered. I'm not quite sure why, because I have been answering questions for last 1 hour. Uh, Next question is, can R&D proposal cite literature? Are URLs or DOIs allowed by the system? Yes, you can put them in the references. Should the PI on the company side of STTR be a US citizen or not? Yes, absolutely. That's a requirement. Will our application be looked at negatively if our business mailing address is our home address? Well, it will be noticed, and we want to make sure that you're not charging any budget to pay for your part of your mortgage. And it has to be justified that you can actually do the R&D at your home address. So there are a lot of things that we look at. But if it makes sense, if you're doing software development, all you need is a desk and a computer. Yeah, you may be using your home. That's fine. Can advisors non-paid be located outside the United States? Yeah, if you're not paying, that's not a problem. But we cannot allow give them anything. Can the PI be on an OPT, that is optional practical training, which allows him to work in the US for maximum 3 years? Uh, I think I'm not going to be able to answer that question. Uh, all I know is that you have to be, PI has to be a green card holder or a US citizen. If it is an OPT person, my guess is that that may not be allowed. But I'm not sure about that. So you can ask that question to SBIR@nsf.gov. Somebody will do the research and get back to you with more definite. Next question, will each proposal be reviewed by an academic researcher and industry expert? Reviewers will not both be professors, academic researchers, correct?